Welcome to Module 17. We're in Chapter 12, the Argumentative Essay, Educational Excellence. I'd like you to turn to page 271, please. And I have my computer open. You can open up your Module 17 and follow along with me. And I want to point out on page 271, there's very, very important information on this page specifically for writing your final paper, your argumentative essay. And if you look at the top of page 271, it points out that you really need to think when you write this paper that there's two sides. There's two sides having an argument, and you want to be able to not only argue your points successively, but you need to defeat your opponent. In every argument, there's good arguments for and against a specific position. And you're going to be writing a thesis statement with a position, and you should be able to refute your opponent with good arguments. And if you see the word refute at the top of page 271, it says it means to prove wrong by argument or to show that something is erroneous or in error. And then it says, however, if the opponent makes some valid points, that means points that are true, you will want to concede them or agree that they're valid or truthful, and then go on to argue your own points. So if you look at the first paragraph, sample paragraph at the top, it's in the middle of page 271, that starts off, one reason people over 75 should not be allowed to drive is that they are a hazard on the road. So this is the type of paragraph that goes directly into arguing. It's giving one specific reason and then supporting it with reasons and examples. And the second one, if you look at it, it says, my opponents argue that people over 75 should not be allowed to drive because they are a hazard on the road. And if you look at the second sentence, it's very, very important. It says, while it's true that the accident rate per mile driven is high for the elderly, the fact is that the elderly simply do not drive as much as those in other age groups. So what's happening in this type of paragraph is that the writer is conceding, saying, well, yes, my opponent has a valid point, and I'm going to point out that they do have a valid point, but then I'm going to come back and argue against it with my own point of view. So exercise 11 is your first exercise in the module, and it says that you need to go back to exercise 10 back in module 16 and look at that final exercise, exercise 10. And in exercise 10 you wrote a short paragraph that had a sentence, and you can look in your module and you can see that I've changed the sentence in exercise 10. In exercise 10 it was number 5, one reason we should restrict students' use of computers is that overuse can lead to addiction. So you were supposed to, in the last module, you were supposed to give 3 arguments why that could possibly be the case, that students could become addicted to a computer if they use it too much. Now, if you look in the module, it says one reason that we should not restrict the students' use of computers is that overuse cannot lead to addiction. So what you need to do is to look in your Module 16 and then figure out. You had 3 specific arguments for the statement in exercise 10, but now you're going to think of 3 arguments against each of those arguments that you came up with in exercise 10 in module 15. So I would like you to structure it exactly the same way. To use first for your supporting point for this paragraph that you're writing, and then second and finally as well. You're structuring it just like exercise 10 and module 16, but you're taking the opposite point of view. So again, you should probably just have about 4 sentences. Topic sentence, I've already given you the topic sentence. You just need to provide the 3 arguments that would support the reason that we should not restrict students' use of computers, right? And the fact that they overusing them cannot lead to addiction. So page 272, please turn there with me, and in your essay assignment on page 279, you're going to be asked to either pick pattern A or pattern B, not both, but you'll have to pick one or the other, and they're different. They're just a little bit different, but they're both types of structures for argumentative essays. And so if you look at pattern A, points 1 and 2 are exactly the same in pattern A and B, but then it changes, right? And what's different about this type of essay is that you'll have an introduction paragraph, and I'm going to ask you to use a turnabout introduction, and then to have a thesis statement, but then you'll have to give some background, extra background information, maybe to define terms or give some historical background information or anything else that's going to be necessary for your reader to understand the issue that you're arguing for or against. And you'll notice in pattern A, this is the type of pattern that on page 271, the first yellow paragraph is this type, where you have reason with an explanation and then supporting examples. And I'm going to ask you to have a topic sentence, one sentence, topic sentence coming from your thesis. It'll be your first argument, either for or against. Your second sentence will actually give an explanation of your topic sentence. It'll explain it, and then you'll have to give supporting 2 supporting examples. The same for reason 2 and for reason 3. And then you'll see that you're actually going to have to discuss a refutation of your opponent's most important reason. So you're going to have to pick out at least one reason you think that your opponent may have a valid argument, and you'll have to concede that your opponent has a valid argument and then argue against it. So this will have actually 5 body paragraphs. It'll have a background paragraph, then 3 reason paragraphs, and then a refutation of your opponent's paragraph. And then of course there's also a conclusion paragraph. And if you look at the conclusion, this is very important. You're changing your conclusion for this final paper, where you're going to summarize. Well, actually you're only going to summarize by restating the points in your thesis statement, but I'm going to ask you to demand some kind of action from your reader in one sentence, and then suggest a solution to the problem that you're discussing, and then also to make a prediction of what do you think will happen possibly in the future. And so if you look at paragraph B, right, I'm sorry, under paragraph A it says, look at the note, it says, you may also refute your opponent's main argument in the introduction or an early paragraph before you begin your reasons. So you can change in pattern A, you can refute it up in your introduction, but I'm going to actually I'm asking you to write a turnabout, so that may not work. However, look please at pattern B. It's the same. You have an introduction paragraph, background information there, but then you're going to write like page 271, where you're conceding to your opponent. You're recognizing that your opponent has an argument, and just in one sentence you'll be giving a short summary of your opponent's argument. First argument, and then their second argument, then their third argument. And then you're going to give your position that should be just the opposite, and then you'll be giving two examples. So pattern B may actually be a little bit easier. It's one paragraph shorter than paragraph A, but you can use the pattern that you think will work the best for your argument. And again, you need a conclusion that's going to demand action, suggest a solution, and make a prediction of the outcome of your issue. So I am not asking you to do well, I'm sorry, yes, exercise 12, you need to read Science, Who Needs It? Read that whole article, and then on page 274, please answer questions 1 through 7, and I've provided starters for each one of those questions, and the last one, number 7, is an outline, and I've provided an outline for you where you just need to fill in a word or a phrase. I am not asking you to do exercise 13, 14. You will be doing 15 and 16. But if you look on page 275, this is where they give a full explanation of how to write a conclusion paragraph, how to actually summarize on page 275, and then how to actually call for action, and then on page 276, how to propose a solution. I'm actually just going to ask you to be able to make a call for action. That's actually like a recommendation, but you're just calling your reader to actually do something about the specific issue that you've brought up and that you've argued for. And then the proposed solution, again, just basically state what the solution is. You don't need to go into a full explanation of it. On page 276, there's a coherence review, and I'm going to ask you to please look over those pages, 276, 277, and your exercise on page 278 at the top of the page on exercise 15 is to edit. So you can add not only words or phrases, but you need to you can add or turn these sentences into, like it says on page 277, using correlative conjunctions, using subordinate clauses on page 277, and then using words or phrases as transition devices. So you'll be joining the sentences together. There's 2 paragraphs there at the top of page 278, and you need to combine sentences, turn some into subordinate clauses, but you need to join some of these short sentences together, and others need some transition device wherever you're changing from one example to the next. You need to use words like first of all, and then when you give an illustration or an example to use to illustrate, right? And then at the end of the little paragraph, you may use to conclude. Right? So, yes, please rewrite in the same order, basically, both of those short paragraphs. And then your last grammar skills exercise is exercise 16 on page 278 and 279. Again, I've given you the whole paragraph. You need to look over it and find one case of capitalization or punctuation error, one passive voice, 2 subject-verb disagreements, 1 direct or indirect speech, direct or indirect speech, then verb tense and form 2, plurals 2, irregulars 1. So please find those mistakes and make the corrections. Now, if you look at the bottom of your module, you'll notice that your final writing assignment is on page 279, and you'll see that I have given you 2 outlines to choose from, and do not fill out both of the outlines. Please choose one outline, either pattern A or choose pattern B, and then write your argumentative essay using just one of the patterns. Please delete, when you turn in your document, your final document, please delete the outline that you did not use. And so if you look at the directions that I gave for this essay assignment, you can look at it with me. It has some different directions that are all very, very important. There's a change here. You'll only be able to pick either question 5 or 7. Right? Question 5 is, should the internet be monitored or censored, and then by whom? So you need to come up with a thesis statement and say, for example, the internet should be monitored by the government for 3 reasons, and then give those 3 reasons. Or the internet should not be monitored or should not be censored by the government. Right? Private citizens should be able to monitor it themselves. Right? Parents can monitor it. People monitor themselves independently. Those kind of things. So there's arguments for and against number 5. And then number 7 is to select an issue at your school, which is the American University, right, that is controversial, and argue for or against it. So one controversial issue at the university is whether the university should offer morning classes, right, or morning and early afternoon classes, like many universities do. most universities do in Afghanistan, although many also operate only in the evening. But that's a controversial question, right? And you can say, I believe that, or AUAF, the American University of Afghanistan, should offer classes in the morning, and then give your 3 reasons. Or you can argue against that. You could say that American universities should not have only evening classes. There's different ways to make the statement. But you can talk about, for example, that they should build a bigger library. They should add more items to the food menu in the cafeteria. They should build a computer center. They should not restrict the amount of paper that students can use for printing in the library. There's all different controversial topics that you can choose with number 7. They don't have to be big controversies, they can be small controversies, as long as you can come up with 3 reasons for or against a specific position. So, if you look at the outlines, hopefully they're very, very clear. If you look at pattern A, please look. You have a place for a thesis statement. And then, under background, you may not have any terms that you need to explain, but you may have some medical term or some technological term that everybody doesn't understand, or that I, as an American reader, if you're discussing an Afghan topic, I may not understand clearly what you're discussing, so it's good to give a little bit of background information. If you're discussing a historical possibility, right, you can give some historical background information. This paragraph does not need to be long. It should be about the same size as your other paragraphs. It could even be shorter than your other body paragraphs. Anything else that you might need to explain? Often controversial issues they need some explanation, because everybody may not understand why, especially a reader may not understand why it's such a controversial topic, or why there's any controversy at all. So you can explain that in that background information paragraph. And you can see with pattern A that your first body paragraphs, right, they just give in one sentence reason 1, right, and then you give an explanation in 1 sentence, and then you give 2 supporting examples. And those supporting examples don't need to be more than 2 or 3 sentences. If you look actually on page 271, those example paragraphs there, on page 271, the first one is about 7 sentences, and it's about 120 words. And the second one is only 4 sentences, and it's about 125 words. So you can see the size of the paragraphs that I'm looking for on page 271. They don't have to be long and complicated, but I'm looking for good structure. Right? And you will need, again, 2 supporting examples for each one. And then pattern B, right? Pattern B is basically, again, you have background information as a body paragraph, but then you have topic sentences in your next 3 paragraphs, where you're going to recognize your opponent, their first argument, in just 1 sentence. That's all you really need. and then next is one sentence, your counter argument against your opponent's first argument. And so you'll have the same structure for all of your 3 paragraphs there, where you recognize your opponent has an argument, and then you give your position against that argument, and then you give supporting examples for your argument. Don't support your opponent's arguments. Just simply recognize those arguments in one sentence. And you'll notice at the bottom of the page, again, I would like a double-spaced essay. Many of you are sending me single-spaced, so I end up often double-spacing them. This time you have 500 to 600 words. Please do not go over 600 words. I don't have enough time in the day to read long essays and to also mark them. So, if you have any questions about this module, again, please email me or chat me up on Facebook. And I'll see you in the next module video, which will explain your final exam questions, possible questions, and how to do your final exam essay question.